Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to another CryptoManiacs podcast. I promise, though, we will rebrand this to the Hive Maniacs one day. It will be. I don't know why we talk CryptoManiacs. We never talk crypto, like ever. It's just Hive. We're fanboys, shills.
I suggest we call it the Bitcoin pricing maniacs, and we'll just
Yes,
talk Bitcoin price for the next year.
yes. When moon, dear sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined once again by the legend himself, Mr. Matt Starkers, with his sunglasses on. He said he wanted to fit in with Task, and kind of like be a little not as cool as Task, but you're there, man. You're almost getting there. You just got to shave your head. So
I just don't feel comfortable on this stream without having a pair of sunglasses on.
It's like every time I see Matt on video there, I just look at that beard and I'm just so jealous. It's like I couldn't grow that in a million years. I couldn't even paint one on that looks that good. It's just I bet he could do a ZZ Top beard, John. Don't you think he could get it?
Definitely grow it out.
Oh, that's asking. I don't know. I feel like after it gets to about this length, I can't stop fiddling with it, and I know I look a bit weird in public. Not that I don't look weird enough already as it is, but if I got a ZZ Top going, I'd be walking around like this, going, "Ooh, yeah, I think this is a very good idea."
Well, we're blessed that we have Matt this week, and actually we decided to do something because John and I both feel that Speak Network is such an important part going forward to Hive. We're actually doing two sessions. This session will give an overview of Speak. Matt will tell us what they went through this year, give a kind of a recap. And then he's agreed to join us next week to give the roadmap, the plan ahead, and tell us all the exciting stuff about the future of Speak and how this is really going to enhance the Hive ecosystem and a lot of things they've been involved with. Anybody who is on CTT like me each week, although I did miss this week because of the holidays. But these guys talk about it, Dan and Matt talk about it all the time and what they're doing. So it's really very impressive. Thank you for joining us, Matt. And as I said before we went on air, maybe the point to start at is was it that you and Dan, what stimulated you to do this and embark on this adventure? And what was it? How did the conversations take place where, hey, let's embark on something that we're going to spend the next 4 years pulling our hair out in the name of censorship resistance and decentralization? I mean, where did this all come from?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from Free Speak, really, which comes from us seeing the censorship starting to happen about 4 years ago. And then 3 years ago, we really went into it. I started building Free Speak with a couple of other guys. And then probably 2 weeks after we started, 3 weeks after we'd launched the initial proof of concept, Dan got in touch and said, hey, this is really interesting. How can I get involved in this? And then we ended up hitting it off. And it's like meeting you guys, when you end up talking to someone and you realize, oh, this guy's shares the right values, the same values as me, and we're trying to figure out a solution to this whole foobar situation. So that was one of the things. Is Western civilization is based on free speech, and you have to have a way to communicate via, well, in our case, via video. And so the really great solution for that, because of the immutable accounts, and then the text storage, so we could store references and descriptions to the blogs and to the vlogs on the Hive blockchain, and then the resource management system on there, and the tokenomics and the way you can distribute rewards. And Dan and I have got decent sized stakes in Hive, so we can both use that to reward our users. So we started off there, and then it became apparent that we needed more than that. We needed to decentralize further, to really get ourselves out of Free Speak altogether. And when I mean out of Free Speak altogether, I mean, the website ultimately it's a centralized website, as all websites are. They can ultimately be shut down at some point. But when you start building things like desktop apps that run locally on your desktop, that feed into the chain, pull the data from the chain to the desktop, we can't influence that. If people choose to run the desktop app for Free Speak locally on their computer, that's going to access the chain, and it's going to access the data on there, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop that. And that really is one of the powerful things about this technology. And then we started looking at, the storage. How do we decentralize the storage? How do we decentralize? And then it was like, well, can we decentralize all of the infrastructure that you need to run a video platform? And that's including the encoder side of things, because of course, when you put a video into an ecosystem, you have to encode it so that other people who are playing your videos in different formats can actually play the format that they need to their device. So you have to encode the video, and then you have to upload it and store it. So your storage is normally centralized, your encoding is normally centralized, and your distribution, your CDN, your content delivery network, is normally also a centralized service. And all of those are weak points that can be shut down. So until that point, ThreeSpeak really had the Hive, because we don't run the accounts, we don't own anyone's accounts, we can't shut anyone's accounts down. We had the resource management system there, the community creation was all done on Hive, the distribution of rewards, the incentivization, the monetization was all done on Hive, so that's all decentralized. But the actual content delivery, the encoder, and the storage was centralized through ThreeSpeak. And so Dan and I racked our brains for, it was at least a year and a half that we were talking about this, but we couldn't quite figure out what the best way to do it was. And then COVID struck, and I went to Dan's. I just fled to Mexico when they locked the UK down. I was like, screw this, I'm off. They locked us down on November the 5th, which is a very important national day for the English. And I was very offended by the way they locked us down on that day. So I was like, right, well, maybe they're not going to open the doors up, so I'm going to get out of here before they lock us down. I went to Mexico to see Dan. I stayed with Dan for a little while, and that was really where we spent about a month, and we got together and spent hours after hours talking about how we could use existing projects, because we're aware of Filecoin, we're aware of our Weave, and we're aware of various different tokenomics models, and also Odyssey, and all sorts of other, Theta network. Well, we looked at them all, and they're all centralized in some way, either by infrastructure or by tokenomics. And the problem is, mostly they got the infrastructure right. They got the technology and infrastructure right, most of these projects, which is great. And they're smart guys, they're really like trailblazing technology. But nearly all of them released in the period where ICOs were a big deal and everyone was doing ICOs. And the tokenomics of blockchain weren't really that good. They weren't really strong enough and advanced enough to build a genuine, sustainable, ongoing content distribution network that incentivizes infrastructure, incentivizes creators on an ongoing basis. Like, some of them have got cap tokens, so they can only distribute so many. Most of them, all of them, I think, put tokens in their own pockets to distribute, which is an unregistered security straight away. So if any of them become big, they're going to get regulated, or they're going to have to cut a deal of some sort. And so Dan and I were watching this and going, everyone's done this wrong. Everyone's done this wrong. And we also are running one of these from a centralized point of view, but we need to get ourselves out of it. So then we were like, well, how do we do this properly? So we realized that as long as we do it without an ICO, and we distribute to a decentralized community like Hive, then we aren't the beneficiaries of the token, And then we can go into a little bit of the details of why we have a miner token, why we have a governance token, why we have a broker resource anti-spam token or utility token. But we designed this network around this, and then we realized that we could run the infrastructure, run the encoders, run the content delivery networks, and run the storage system peer-to-peer outside of our control, under the regulation of the community. And so that's really where we realized that the Speak network was starting to come about, and it enabled Dan and I, if nothing else, but to get out of ThreeSpeak and give the power back to the community and really decentralize the whole video experience on Hive. And so that's where the Speak network came about, and that was about probably 2 years. It was 2 years ago that we really wrote the first light paper and finalized the conceptualization of the idea.
So, okay, just to quickly summarize. So with YouTube, I sign up for YouTube. I go and I enter in my Google account. Obviously, being a Google account, they control the account. They have full dominion over my account. Then I go and I log in with Google. I upload videos, and it's all on their infrastructure. So initially, ThreeSpeak was kind of hybrid. It was a step in the right direction because you used Hive accounts, which you did not control. Obviously, the account management system on Hive controls that, which means nobody controls it. However, when I log in with my Hive account, you can't zap my Hive account, but anything that I uploaded was under your domain. It was on your servers that you rent. So thus, you were centralized in the accounts, but and the tokenomics and all that was through Hive, but the control of the videos, not only did you have control, it made you susceptible to, copyright infringement or the government coming and saying, you got to take this stuff down because, we just said so. So that made you guys vulnerable. And now Speak Network eliminates that, not only for you guys, but for anybody who wants to utilize this technology, set up their own front end, set up their own video community, set up whatever they want, they're not vulnerable, correct?
Yeah, almost. I mean, that's what's being built. So we're literally about to release a testnet for proof of access in order to enable the incentivization of peer-to-peer videos. So we have that running in the background. We're not quite ready to release yet. There's a couple more tweaks we need to do, but we are ready to testnet almost. And so that's basically imminently happening. I don't know exactly when it will be, but it will be in the next few weeks for sure.
Okay,
that is a massive step.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't go forward accidentally. Here's someone who's a good friend of the show. He's been on a number of times, and I think this is part of your track record over the last at least year, maybe a little further. Where did Disregard Fiat enter the picture and Honeycomb? Where did that come about for Speak Network?
Yeah, so originally when we conceptualized all of this, we did it all with peer plays. And the whole plan was to do the whole project with plays, the tokenomics side, the wrapping of the token side, the infrastructure side. And they seem great. They've got some great guys on their team. But just before we did the initial token drop, which was January last year, it was this time last year, it was actually January the 6th last year in 2022. So if you held Hive on that date, you got access to the Larynx miner token drop, so you can claim Larynx miner tokens every month. So we launched that in January, but it went wrong just while we're in the testing phase, just about now, right the Christmas period, and the peer plays chain didn't manage to update and it didn't work. So we were kind of left in a lurch because we were like, holy shit, we promised the community we're going to drop on this date, and we can't do it. We can't do the drop, So we were kind of scrabbling for hard. Fear from the Honeycomb side, the Honeycomb technology side, had been in a lot of our meetings and listening to what was going on. And when he realized that this was going to be a problem for us, that we weren't going to be able to meet what we promised the community and drop on the date that we promised, which was, I think, the 28th of January, he said, give me one more month and I'll build something that will allow you to do the token drop. And so that was basically the only option that we had. Well, we had a few different options, but it was the one that we really wanted to go for. And we realized that what he's built is a layer 2 on Hive to do these tokenomic systems. Really, really, really lightweight. So all the important things stay on Hive, like the tokenomics, like the account system, the resources, the content, the communities, everything like that. But the actual DEX and the tokenomics and the transaction layer goes on layer 2 on Honeycomb, which basically Honeycomb is the technology that we use to build the Speak Network blockchain, which is a layer 2 on Hive. And it's really good because it means it's really easy to run a layer 2 node, to run a node on the Speak Network, because it doesn't need all this heavy duty data like Hive does. And not that Hive's even that lightweight. Sorry, not that Hive's even that heavy. It's really lightweight as it is, but on top of that, you can run these layer 2s that are super lightweight. So now like people can just run them on a $5 on the server. We have 60 node operators that have stepped up to run after Disregard rolled this out. And it's just been we're really lucky because it really was, we ended up in a bit of a bind with what happened with peer plays. I don't want to be negative towards peer plays either. I think they did a great job. It's just that their chain didn't quite work when it needed to work. And they've still got a part of the scope of the work, but we moved the majority of the tokenomics across to Disregard and Honeycomb after that happened, because it really was the solution that we needed at the time.
I got an interesting question, and this is on I'm kind of the marketing guy, I guess you would call me, and I'm always fascinated with, obviously you have a presence on Twitter, you guys are out there, but one of the things that you said, ThreeSpeak was kind of being built here years ago. And since then, you've seen people get blacklisted on YouTube, and the Twitter files are out now. Like, I mean, there's so much, just this is rampant. But then you start seeing people recommend blockchain-based, and I'm going to put it in bunny ear quotes, video solutions. And it's usually the rinse and repeat, the Odysseys, the whichever one. ThreeSpeak is always mentioned, but there seems to be a push towards these. I'm not going to say centralized, because that's not what I'm trying to.
We call them Web 2. We call them Web 2.5. They're not quite Web 3.
Right, and that's what I wanted to get at. How is it frustrating for you to see people still in that mindset, even though they're recommending these things? Or do you take this as like an opportunity, like, hey, ThreeSpeak and Speak Network as a whole is gearing up for some pretty big and important stuff here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's frustrating to see the blockchain community completely miss this. Well, not completely, because we do have a really strong Hive community, which is great. But in terms of being able to provide a real solution that people really need, that can't be regulated but by the community itself, this is it. And we're the only ones that have built it in the way that prevents it from being regulated. And so you see with they just got regulated by the SEC. You get too big, you did yourself an ICO. I think it had a 50% pre-mine. Don't quote me in the exact numbers, but it was a big pre-mine. And that's an unregistered security. You can't do that without raising the attention of the US government and giving them a real good, easy path to sue you, which is what's happened. And that project's really going to suffer as a result of that. They'll either have to cut a deal with the US government to regulate themselves, or they'll have to be delisted from exchanges, or they will have to, value. So it's not great for the economics of their ecosystem. But we knew, as soon as we saw it, we've always been saying this is going to happen. Because once you release a token in your own pocket, it's an unregistered security. You cannot give yourself any tokens, 0 tokens, unless you drop into a community in which you already have tokens, in which case you drop into. A lot of people have got a lot of larynx miner tokens, for example, that have never worked it down the project, but because they held Hive, they get the larynx tokens and they've got those tokens. And that's to ensure that it's a decentralized distribution. And I don't understand why. I mean, I do. It's the human natured action of, well, I'm building a product, so I want to make a load of money. Yeah, it's partly driven by greed. It's partly driven by a genuine attempt to greed and control. Yeah, it gives them control, but it's also driven by a genuine attempt for people to raise funding for themselves. I also get that they get stuck in the funding trap. But that's not the way to do it with this technology. You are supposed to do it decentralized funding. Bitcoin didn't give itself any money. No one working on Bitcoin gave themselves money. They mined the tokens, they earned the tokens. And this is the thing. This is the key word here is earn. You have to have a system in which you earn the tokens, and this is what we set up on the Speak Network this year when we dropped the tokens. And so we earn our tokens. We never gave ourselves any. We can do that because we fund from the Hive DAO. We fund from a decentralized DAO. We put the project there. We made a proposal. We spent many months working on it, and we managed to get the approval of the community to do this. No one else seems to have realised that that's how you're going to get ICOs and you're going to get VCs coming in. And now here's the distinguishing factor. This is why I think a lot of projects have got the attention of the VC capital in them. And the VC capital, if it got in before the rest of the community did, it is not aligned with the community members buying the token in the open market, because the VC got in early and they're now trying to look for exit liquidity. Well, that's the problem with these ICOs. They don't, and that's why the SEC got a point. Whereas when you do an equal fair airdrop or a start at 0 mining price where everyone has to mine, everyone that got in, no one got a special price. The VCs didn't get any benefit over the other guys because they had to buy it off the open market or earn it by mining. And if for some reason, no one has followed this, and I don't want to bitch about the projects too much. It is frustrating to watch as many people drive traffic to those projects, partly because the VCs have got a decent chunk of those projects. The US government or the powers that be can see that they're easily controlled projects, right? Whereas on this one, it's not going to be controlled by anyone. No one. I remember he put out a tweet a couple of years ago saying there will only be one one owner of the means to free speech in the future, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but we replied saying there must be no owner. There must be no owner to the layer one that runs the infrastructure upon which free speech will be secured. Otherwise, it's not free speech. And no one seems to have understood that this is the point of this technology. This technology is here to be run to build these systems in a decentralized way, so that there is no owner. So it's an ownerless layer one that can't be regulated but by the community itself. But we're getting there, And so to me, when I see these other projects getting traffic, I honestly at this point, because it's frustrating that we didn't go viral like they did at the time, and we tried a lot to get it to happen, but partly the side of the process hindered us, which is being fixed. We can talk about that in the next one. But just the way I look at it, you always got to try and put a positive, bring it to a positive outcome. And it's like, well, it's given us more time to develop in the background while everyone else is getting the attention, everyone else is getting looked at, and some of these laws are getting rolled out now. It's very unlikely that we're going to get hampered by any of that because we're flying under the radar somewhat. But everyone knows we're still there. Everyone still knows that we're ticking away and we're doing what we're doing. And it's going to be very, very, very difficult to shut down, if possible at all, by the time that we get to this place where we're ready to really push it. And I'm quite looking forward to it because it means that we will have a fully completed product when we're ready to push this, And so, it's frustrating, but it's a secret weapon in some ways because it puts you under the radar and lets you away and solve the things properly. And as long as we're building the foundation properly, which we absolutely are, then I've got no problem because I feel very good about the fact that we're releasing a genuine product that will benefit thousands and thousands of people because nations using this technology in the way that it should have been used all along, without ICOs, without pre-market, without CEOs, without companies that can be regulated. It's ownerless technology, and that's what this needs to be. And the distinguishing thing for me and Dan as well is that we have the infrastructure incentivized. So the peer-to-peer infrastructure operators can earn money, and they can be voted in. The key infrastructure, which is the validators on the content side, they can be voted in by the community. So there'll be 20 of them initially, and they'll be voted in by the community, completely outside of our control, And then they will be able to self-sustain based on the economic model of the Speak network. As the network effect grows, the demand for the token will grow, and that will grow the price of the token. And so it kind of goes along with itself as it grows. The token price demand increases, and that should then self-sustain the infrastructure operators who remain individuals from the community. There is no community, there is no company behind these infrastructure operators. There's no big conglomerate, there's no compromised entity, there's no regulatable entity. There's just individual people who partly, some are anonymous, some are public, and they are members of the community, and they'll be elected in by the community itself. That it is incredibly hard to regulate, and is incredibly robust and stable, and can self-sustain because the protocol incentivizes these people to run the infrastructure. And this is another mistake that we're seeing all over Web 2.5. That they've stopped believing in the idea. They believe in incentivizing, for example, the Bitcoin layer, but then the Lightning layer won't incentivize the nodes. They don't believe in incentivizing the nodes on the Lightning layer. End up with a scenario where the most popular nodes will have to figure out a way to fund themselves as they get traffic that's so high that it costs them a lot of money, and they'll just go back to the old Web 2 model of mining people's data, turning people's accounts on and off, advertisements, things like that. Whereas once you can use the protocol to incentivize the infrastructure providers, you can change the economic model completely because you don't need to then rely upon ads. You don't need it to incentivize and self-sustain. You're relying on the demand generated by the services being provided. And as long as you've got a self-sustaining token model that does that, then it works. But none of these projects have done that. They really haven't. And, it's a shame to see, but at the same time, it humbles me because we haven't been doing this properly and ticking away. And so I'm quite looking forward to it. I use it as a positive, really, because it gives us a chance to really do this properly.
So just follow up on John's question there and what you said. You did express some feelings, but if we could move up a little bit to a philosophical level, if you will. It's obvious by the words that you and Dan have put out for a number of years, plus your actions, you guys hold as values censorship resistant, decentralized, distributed, open source, freedom. All these are values that
Sure.
we can attribute to what you guys have said and what you guys have done. And you obviously talked about this for years and years and years. Dan's made, who knows how many videos on Hive talking about it. And as John was saying, we not only saw the Facebook and the YouTube censoring of accounts and taking stuff down. Now the Twitter files coming out, we see how deep this stuff goes, how government and the alphabet agencies are involved. And what I want to know is, how do you feel from the philosophical standpoint, from the value standpoint? Yes, I understand it's frustrating to see these other apps get the attention and Three Speaks overlooked, but ignoring that, not only do you feel vindicated, but like you said, you feel excited and you're turning into a positive. But it kind of, to me, is sitting here saying, well, see, guys, I told you so. I mean, you guys were very early. You saw it clearly. You knew what was going to happen. You talked about it. You took action on it. And here we sit at the end of 2022, and people are blowing their minds that the U.S. government in the White House and two different White Houses was influencing what was censored on Twitter and whatnot. That has to be an eye opener. And that really has to send chills up your spine that says, thank God we're doing this.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, it is very vindicating. To be honest with you, I have stopped following a lot of the media narrative around things. It's becoming so cloudy these days. But you're right. Recently, it has come out that there's a lot of influence from the alphabet agencies inside of these platforms. And then the next question has to be, well, what's stopping that from happening inside of your platform? What exactly is it that your platform does that's different to YouTube, and what stops it from being infiltrated? Like, I mean, it's nice to see Elon Musk kick a bit of ass on Twitter, but at the same time, the left is now feeling the pain, and it's just a classic scenario of, well, now you're being regulated by the rules that you put in place, and you don't like it being done to yourself. Well, that's kind of, you're eating your own dog food at that point. It was coming. But our point is, well, that shouldn't be possible in the first place. We shouldn't ever be able to find ourselves in a scenario where there's one guy who has the ability to do this, or, over-regulate one side or the other. It's just, now that this technology's been here, this technology's been here for 6 years. It's not new, And the point of this is that the message that we want to, Twitter, for an example, everything that is a public commons good can be moved outside of Twitter, put on an ownerless layer that no one controls, right? And once we have that, so this, for example, is the account system on Hive, for example. They should move the Twitter accounts outside of the control of Twitter and put them onto an ownerless layer that no one can control, so that everyone in the world has a right to have a Twitter account or a social media account. And then Twitter, and they can remove the rest as well, the followers lists, the content, they can all go on ownerless layers, so that Twitter can focus on providing a great user experience, which is what it really is. It's a platform that's supposed to provide a great user experience. It's just that the Web 2 model from old allows these companies to, and requires these companies to run and maintain the account systems in a centralized way, privately in their own infrastructure, which is then regulatable and then commandeerable by the alphabet agencies, right? Well, this technology allows us to remove that problem. It allows us to solve that problem and move that to an ownerless layer that's outside the control of the platform, and then outside of the control of the regulation of the alphabet agencies, and therefore by default give human a right to own their social media account, a right to post. And we see this, we're building this. We are building this, and slowly but surely in the background, I'm just enjoying. I'm enjoying it. It gives me more inspiration to keep doing it. And even if it doesn't blow up and go crazy, it really doesn't matter, because we know we've done the right thing and then people can choose to use it voluntarily if they wish, And if they don't, it's also fine. They make, a lot of people like the convenience. They like to be able to be regulated. That's up to them, but we're freedom maximalists, and we believe that everyone should have the right to have their own account and not be able to be cancelled, and have the infrastructures running that technology be able to be incentivized so that they can stay afloat without being commandeered by the alphabet agencies or without having to register a company and become a regulatable entity. So we're doing it. We've done a couple more things to do, which we can go in the next episode when we talk about the future of this. And I'm very, very proud of what we've done. And I think it's, even if it isn't the thing that's used, I genuinely think there is only one model that can be used here, genuinely, that actually provides the services of a free, true, decentralized Web3. I don't see another model out there that's capable of doing it, to be honest.
I know this is for me personally, when I start hearing the talking heads and the influencers, yapping about Web3, they're yapping about, true decentralization and this, that, and then they'll throw some of the top 20 tokens out there about this is where the Web3 lives. And part of me as a Hive maximalist, it's almost egotistical, even though I shouldn't be, but it's just like, I'm telling myself, like, we got it all here. We really do. And one day, whenever that day will be, people will wake up and they'll see, kind of like what you guys have been saying since day one with this, with the video platform stuff. It's like, all of this stuff is centralized. There's fail points here, and it's going to happen, and it did.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something we as Hive maximalists have to calm down a little, but that whole told you so stuff, it's like, I sit there and tell myself, like, man, what there's nothing out there that even comes close to this. And then on top of that, Speak is being built upon it. Nothing comes close at all.
Yeah.
And do you think that's us being, just egotistical, or is it truly there's nothing else out there like this?
No, well, the closest thing that comes to it is people running their own federated server, which is where anyone can run a server, anyone can copy anyone else's server and make sure the accounts get copied across. And so it is really hard to delete the accounts, so people can have their own kind of Web 2.5 accounts. But ultimately, whilst there's no incentivization of that infrastructure, whilst there's no token to incentivize in a scenario where they will have to default, if they become popular, to the old Web 2 models, and then you get back to the old Web 2 system, the advertisers having control, corruption, people mining people data. It's just logically obvious where it's going, and we've been right on everything else so far, so that's why we won't be right on it. And so I would never call myself personally a Hive maximalist. I'm agnostic. I am trying to build this in such a way that any other chain can use this stuff. So we have surround accounts. It was about 6 months ago in the test phase, which means you can log in with your MetaMask account and post to an indexer that mixes both Hive on-chain content and off-chain content. And we think that's really important for the onboarding process. That's going to make the onboarding process way easier. It's a work in progress at the moment, but it's coming out. And that's effectively the same model that everyone else is using. It's Jack Dorsey's Web 5, or what we call Web 2.5, which is where it's off-chain accounts, which we think most posting will be done through in the future. Because when you want to post on-chain better, you've got to expend resources, and the resources should, in theory, if the thing scales, become expensive. So you're going to need an off-chain system for onboarding and for ease of posting and for posting things off-chain, which is what all these guys are building. It's federated nodes. Anyone can run a copy of it. But then they can also censor people's accounts through their nodes as well. There's no requirement to keep people's accounts online like there is if you want to mine Hive. You have to make sure that everyone's account stay online. You have to run the same copy of the protocol. Whereas on federated, you can copy the protocol and then modify it in your own way so that you can delete people's accounts, for example. And that's what we'll start seeing at some point. And like you were saying about this, why are we shouting about this? Are we wrong? No, we're not wrong at all. It's just really hard to explain these abstract concepts to people. We are free. I would call myself a freedom maximalist. And to explain this, when all these other people have got vested interest and have put their own time and energy in these other systems that are really Web 2.5, the only way they're ever going to really learn is when they finally get hit by the inevitable thing that's coming to them, right? That might take a number of years. It might take a number of years. Inevitably, this will start to happen. You will get a scenario where these chains will either become centralized, regulated, or their off-chain fediverses will become corrupt, or have to start mining people's data, or have to think of another way to raise money that isn't built into the protocol because they refuse to build token systems that incentivize these infrastructure operators. And so eventually it will become clear we will be able to sit in any debate, and we already can. This is the thing that I'm very, very confident about. We can win any debate against anyone in crypto, because there's no way any of them can devise a method in which to shut this down, whereas we can always devise to shut other models down. As I've just explained, info mining, advertisement systems, they're going to have them all, and they won't. Whereas on Hive, because the tokenomics have been built and the value of the token is based on the scaling of the network. As the network gets popular, the price of the token will go up. It's just inherent within the system. No one seems to have realized that yet. And if someone else does build that, but I don't see anyone else even trying. And so that's going on. I feel confident anyone and explains to them why one doesn't quite achieve the Web3 utopia that they think it does, and why what we have built will help them do that. And I don't want this to be a competition. I want Bitcoin on Hive, bouncing around Hive for free. There's no reason we can't do exactly what the Lightning Network does, way more efficiently, way cheaper. Free. There's no reason that we can't have Ethereum tokens on Hive, and we're trying to build this with peer plays at the moment. We're having a few contractual issues, but we're trying our best to get that built. There's no reason that we can't have just kind of pure, genuine ownership of content and accounts on Web3 on Hive. And so someone somewhere is going to call this out. And there's two ways we do this. To me, I don't feel like I'm ready to go hardcore into it yet, because I feel like we need the off-chain account system built for the easy onboarding first. I feel like it would be nice to have proof of access at least in testnet, and hopefully actually release live before we start shouting about this. But once a few of those things are out, and then we've got the CDN nodes to come out as well, and a few of the changes that we'll talk about in the next episode in terms of what's coming up. But once those are out, I mean, I'm going to be shouting from the rooftops. I'm going to be calling people out. And there's a few ways to do that. Calling these people out on their feed, like ram them with Hive and saying this, or this is going to end up like this. Prove me wrong. We should be calling these people out. But I still feel good that it's not viral yet, because I feel like we've got a chance to really make this work well, and then it kind of out of nowhere, everything's working. All these things that these guys always that we need some else at some point, call it out, get into debates. Another thing that I think we should provoke an attack. We should be attacked. I want it to be attacked, so we can prove, we can come through the other side of the attack and then say, well, what have you got next? Because we already survived that one. We already survived. So what could be worse than that? And I just feel like these systems need to be attacked and proven, so that we'll say, oh, it's weak this or weak that, or there's a problem here, there's a problem there, or you just say, no, there's not. You've been attacked. What's the next question? And you just keep taking the excuses away. You just keep taking the excuses away until there's a point where people are like, yeah, fuck, these guys are right. You will leave out using.
Well, I think what you said before, and what we're talking about with the years ago that you watched this and you forecast it, with each passing month that goes by, that allows us to strengthen our position, because we are still flying under the radar. And the more infrastructure we build and the more nodes we get into place on the second layer and decentralized node system, and the more censorship resistant and distribution of the token and all that stuff, the better off we are. And it's interesting with going back to Elon and Twitter. Elon may be a benevolent dictator, but he's still a dictator. It's still Twitter,
right,
right. And so they still have control of your account. They still have control of your data. And what you mentioned was very important. Even if they started to move some of this stuff over, the simple fact of the matter is, without the incentivization of your infrastructure, you have to monetize something somehow to pay for that. There's just no way around it. And in this world, in the internet world, it's traditionally been advertising and data. Or you end up falling, like you were talking about with the Lightning Network, where your biggest liquidity providers might be Chase, who then, will start to take all the data, and they'll use that as an onboarding for other services and with Chase ads and all that other crap. But guess who Chase is willing to answer to? The government, the alphabet agencies. So
Right.
I think that's a very important concept. And why would you say that other people who are running these projects, like you were talking about the federated servers, why do they resist incentivizing infrastructure? I've seen you and Dan talk about it on Twitter. And why do you think there is that resistance?
I think partly it's because they don't realize how important it is. I genuinely think people don't see, they just see, oh, well, anyone can run a node and it'll be fine as long as anyone can run a node. Which it's like, it's almost like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, it's like, it really is a genuinely idea, but even further than what you said about Chase running a node, Taskmaster, it doesn't even have to be them. It's like any old Tom, Dick, and Harry that runs one of these nodes that becomes popular. They're gonna have to figure out a way to get the money to run the node, and that's when they start to get compromised. And when it comes to how do we have a protocol that incentivizes these infrastructure, I honestly don't know why someone hasn't even played with that. The slogan to the Speak Network is incentivizing Web3 infrastructure. So we really are doing that, and it really is one of our core things. And I haven't seen another project that's really thought about how to incentivize Web3. And part of it also is because, you know, every other crypto is a scam. So there's no possible way that any other crypto could do what Bitcoin's done for transactions. And I'm like, well, yeah, it can. I agree. Most of the cryptos are a scam, and most of the cryptos, even unknowingly, have been set up as scams because they've got these ICOs and that people have moved the tokens into their own pockets, and now they're unregistered securities and they're going to get regulated. Seems to have really gone down the route of, it's like two camps. It's like the maxis won't do it because they believe in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, if you believe in Bitcoin, you believe only the miners should get incentivized. It's a limit. So you can't incentivize other infrastructure types because the maxis won't change away from just incentivizing miners, which I find really strange. I find that a really strange model to follow. And then the other projects are often ICOs and scams, and they will be regulated what they do. They're going to end up in a difficult scenario. There are other projects coming up, bouncing around that I've heard, but they're all very, very small and very, very early days. So I don't really know. To me, I find it really, really weird. I find it really strange that Ready and is actually competing in this area. And I find it even stranger that no one really recognizes that this is a really crucial, important thing to be able to do. I guess it's because no one's really suffered from the consequences of it yet. But that will become apparent, I'm sure. And it could happen tomorrow. One of these nodes could go viral tomorrow. I mean, we've already seen a couple of the nodes get a lot. I think it's Mastodon, where like 2% of the nodes have got 90% of the traffic or something. Probably. And now they're all saying we need to fund. How do we fund? We need to do advertisements, or we need to do data mining to fund our projects. And you're going down the exact same route. You're going back to the route that you were trying to solve in the first place. You know, that is because the infrastructure is not provided. Itty bitty little people like us in the ecosystem, individual people who are renowned and respected from the ecosystem. It's run by. Because what happens is when your node gets big and gets lots of traffic, and you're a registered company because you're making money off it, you have to be a registered company. Then you're regulatable. You know, you are shut downable. To me, it's obvious. Maybe I think it will become obvious when the consequences of it start happening, and then again, it will be our chance to and hopefully this time we'll be ready. We'll be ready to go viral at that point. And when I say us, I don't just mean the Speak Network. I mean the whole Hive community. We'll be in a position to go and call these people out and say, look, we've been telling you this for years, you've been ignoring it, and we just have to hammer them. We have to hammer them when it comes up, and it might go viral tomorrow, and then they'll start funding, and the funding will compromise them, and then we can go everywhere and hold our heads high and say, look, we did this right, we knew this was going to happen. Here's the post that we posted about 6 months ago, a year ago. Here's us calling this out. And here's what's happened, and we've called this right. And by the way, we've also been building and working on a solution to this. And if you want to, if you don't, you can go on and build your own, copy the model. Maybe I'm perfectly happy with that. But at some point, someone's got to start recognizing that that they're going about it in a Web 2.5 way and not a true Web 3 way, for sure.
My last question as we look back, you mentioned the problem with peer plays and disregard and Honeycomb stepping up to expose some of your dirty laundry, if you will. Were there any other challenges for 2022 with Speak Network that were major pitfalls, obstacles that you didn't expect and that kind of maybe delayed some things?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to mention, I think it's great that we managed to get working with Honeycomb, and it was really a blessing in disguise in some ways. The Disregard's done a great job. And it's like enabled him to develop his projects as well, and it's enabled peer plays to focus on the things that they wanted to focus on more closely. So, you know, there's silver linings to it all. It was definitely a setback and a difficult thing. None of this stuff goes perfectly, you know, it never goes to plan. But the point is that when you have a good team around you and you can think on your feet and find the best solution, a lot of the stars often align because you've set up the conditions in which the stars can align. It kind of came out better than it would have, in my opinion, but it was a pain in the ass when it happened. The other thing that's happened as well is we've had trouble with developers, where some developers have found other done, they've stayed on the project a little bit part-time or very part-time, and so we haven't made as much dev progress as we really hoped. It's been frustrating. It's been frustrating because I'm not a developer. I'm just a guy that knows the technology and I'm able to. Sometimes when, you know, there's only so many developers in the world, and there's only so many that know about this tech, and there's only so many that really want to build it. And so when we had the last boom, just a few of the devs maybe chase some of the higher money jobs where these projects received the big ICOs and they've got the VC back. We're a humble project. We don't pay our developers like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every month. We pay what the DAO pays us to distribute around a team of about 6 or 7 devs. Some are more full-time, some are part-time. But the good news is that over the last sort of 3 months to get a solid team of devs together, and we actually have that now. It takes about 3 months to onboard people and get them familiar with the project and everything. But we now have 6 devs working on the project, and they're all smart guys. They all get the tech. They're all working on the different areas of the project. Now we've got Sagar working on the mobile app. He's been amazing. He's also helping run 3Speak. So once you start on 3Speak, he's one of the guys that's really helped manually keep that going. And by the way, in the last week, we have fixed most of those problems. So I'm touch wood. The encoder issues should be done with now. We should have got to the root of those by now. There's still a few.
Yeah, me and Baltec have gotten to be buddies.
Good. This is what I love. Though I love like the super users. Let's say like you talking to the devs directly and figuring out ways to make the experience better. Because well, this was part of it. You know, Baltec hasn't always been available. People have been busy for things, but he's on board full now. Disregards full speed. He's been doing a cracking job for the last 8 months anyway. We've got Sagar. We've got a guy called Igor on the team from Brazil. He's a young dev, but he's very smart, very keen to learn. We've got another guy called SQ Hell, who's come in the last couple of months. He's an OG crypto guy from back in 2012. So he knows his stuff. And it's just all starting to come together. I'm really enjoying the team that we've got around us.
To your credit,
and I can see the progress.
Eddie's a great liaison to them because anytime I have a problem, if I don't get a response, I just contact Eddie. He says, "Yeah, I already notified the devs."
Incredible. Yeah, he's incredible. He really is a machine. He's a dev. He really helps keep things running in between. I mean, for me, it's difficult coordinating everything, and it's a lot of behind the scenes work that no one really sees. Telegram groups and all the Discord groups and things, and chatting to the people having issues as well. On top of that is a lot, and Eddie really does a great job out with that, and he's really on the ball with it, and really appreciate what he does. And Dan brings his expertise and his poker, and he's of course his impeccable crypto knowledge to the project, and some of his support. So we've got a really good team now, and I'll tell you now, like it feels a bit like there's not much happening at the moment because of but because the team's really ramped up again over the last couple of months, we're going to start to see a lot of things come out over the next few weeks. And I really feel like there's going to be a few things just one after the other come out. And I wish it wasn't like that, but that's kind of the nature of dev work sometimes, you know. It's coming out. My most important thing is we've made significant progress, and you can see it in our hub. We've made significant progress in the new web version, open source of 3speak.tv, and that's what we will run. We can't run it right now because it's not finished. See the work. It's an updated version. It's got latest technology. It's much smoother. The whole thing's rebuilt. It's in a much cleaner language. It's open source as well, so anyone can contribute to it. And I'm once 2 months or so, a lot of things are going to follow on the back of that, because that's really the core to the whole thing. The actual app. And so that will allow us to properly distribute storage. It will allow us to properly integrate anyone running their own nodes. The login systems that we've really struggled with over the last couple of years, we'll be able to finish that off. The encoding's working smooth. Things are coming together, and it's in the next 6 months or so, I'm really excited to see a few things come out. And these devs are really starting to get working together. They're putting. They've all got a standardized way of writing the readmes inside the files. It explains what you need to run together to get one, so new devs can come in more easily and understand what's going on without talking to the old devs. We've got a nice Trello system set up where we've got a project management strategy back there now. Some of the teams have that, but now we've got 6 and 7 devs. We really need to have that going, and that's all coming together as well. They're all trying to work together to assign it. It's nice to see. So I'm seeing it happen, but we don't see any physical results yet. But over the next few weeks, we'll actually see it now. I'm really excited about that.
Well, that sounds like a good place to start our next conversation. What do you think, John? You got any questions? Any questions from the peanut gallery for Matt?
No, I just would love to say that I heard a Scrabble word today. Unshutdownable. Is that what I heard? Or shutdownable?
Was that me?
Yeah, that was great.
Unshutdownable.
Unshutdownable. I love it. That was like, I wrote that down. I was like, I'm going to remember that. No, dude, I appreciate you stopping by, and next week will be a lot of fun to see the forecast for 2023 here on the Speak Network. And I mean, Task is a very, like you said, a super user. I don't use anything else. I mean, 3Speak is my home for sure for the video stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, and can't wait, man, to hear what you got in the new year for us. So there you go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's lots of little interesting things. I'll make a few, hopefully excite you guys with a few things, because there are a lot of interesting things coming out, and I'm excited, especially for this stuff. And the fact it's built properly, and at a certain point we learn where guys like you can sit there and say, we've been using this stuff for 3 years. Where the hell were you going? For sure.
Yeah, it's unshutdownable. I love it.
It's unshutdownable.
Well, and the other cool thing about 3Speak, and I sent out a tweet about this, and John, you and I talked about this. On YouTube, you have to get 1,000 users and like 10,000 hours of viewing and stuff like that. And it's like on 3Speak, you post it, you can get rewarded with your first video. And, with Eddie running around with the 3Speak account, if you keep posting, sooner or later, you're going to appear on his radar, and there may be a bit of an upvote. And okay, you're not going to get rich off of it, but, it's a lot better than trying to build a following on YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to see a way to, by the way, and I would love to see a way, because we have our own type of trending feed. Eddie manually, we have a bot, effectively an analytics curated second feed, which is our trending feed, which is based on views and like comments and interactions and things like this. So the new posts that come out are on there, and then we have first time posts, right? Well, I'd love to see about a way that we could maybe integrate a views feed in there, so it shows on the 3Speak platform with maybe a views logo in there somewhere that gives credit back to you guys. Maybe there's a link that can click back to the view site. Use system to allow our users to self-curate their videos, and then figure out a way that we can make those video feeds open source that any other platforms that want to spin themselves up can use those types of feeds. And I don't know exactly how it works, but maybe separately on how we could build some that benefits you and benefits the community, and at least not 3Speak. I'd be really, really interested to see if there's a way we could do that.
That sounds like a Blaine Voltec discussion.
Yeah. It's a Blaine Voltec thing. I just dance on camera, right? I mean, you know.
Yeah, it is.
That's-
It's like
Yeah.
they'll be saying, "Oh, the guys had a 30-second chat month job in the back end for the devs." You know, it's like,
Yeah.
guys had a 30-second chat at work.
They'll either say that's not possible, or they'll say, "Oh, that's easy. Okay, we know what to do."
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyways,
Well, there's other interoperability to talk to you about in the next video as well, because I think you'd be really interested in that.
oh, it's perfect. I'm looking forward to it, man. I hope everyone listening in too. Once again, Starkers from 3Speak and the Speak Network. Thank you, sir, for all you do, and appreciate you. And looking forward to next week in the new year. We won't see it till the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, gents.
You too,
Be an
man.
interesting one for sure.
Ciao, all.
Later.
All right, laters.